Hi, I'm Don Mooers. Welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. The League of Women Voters in Montgomery County is busy as it works throughout the community, our community, encouraging people who have not registered to get out and register, and then they'll be working to get them to come out to vote. Zaida Arguedas from the League will tell us all about the League's efforts. Stories about your money, our money, their money are all appreciated by the readers of the Beacon newspaper. Stuart Rosenthal, the editor and publisher of the Beacon, has articles about money as well as a quick review of two very successful expos they had. Our public schools are known for their high quality, and today Jane DeWinter, who comments for this program on a regular basis, has some good news regarding one of MCPS's schools. Montgomery College has many outreach programs for students, adults, and everyone throughout the community. Carolina Galeano, multicultural TV producer at the college, has details about one upcoming program, and that is the World of Montgomery, which will be held later in October. Zaida, you know you're one of my favorite people.
Yes, Don.
Welcome back to Montgomery Week in Review. The League is working really hard to, as I understand it, ensure that everyone will participate in this year's general election. Tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Yes. As you know, and everyone knows, there are many organizations in the county doing voter registration, and in fact, the League in September registered over 500 people at the different citizen, new citizen
Sure. The
ceremonies.
Right.
So now it's time to move to encourage them to get out to vote.
Now, let's talk about dates. What is the deadline for registering to vote in November?
It's October 18.
Okay.
We also have early voting dates,
Okay.
which begin on the 23rd of October through the 7th of November, through the 3rd of November.
And people can find those early voting dates. I know that everybody just got the League's voter guide.
Yes.
And then online, and I think isn't there a Facebook?
There's a Facebook, and I hope it's under my name.
Okay. And what is that Facebook? What does that get to?
It gives you all the information, all the different events that we're holding. What we are calling October is the Voter Education Engagement Month.
Perfect.
Didn't I hear that you can register to vote at the early voting?
Yes, you can.
So even though it's after the 18th, you can still...
Indeed.
Okay.
You have to find the place where you have to vote. You know, there are 8 or 9 sites in the county, so you will be able to do that.
And your voter's guide has that information, I think.
It does.
I've talked to some youth or people my age who feel like, you know, this state is just going to go to one party, so why even vote? What would you tell them?
I'll tell them that elections is very important regardless of the perceived outcome. We don't really know what the outcome will be. But if you don't exercise that right, then you will be out there in the cold.
Well, and it's not just the presidential race. I mean, we've got the Senate race.
Yes.
We've got quite a few contested House races.
Yes.
There are judges.
And the Board of
And the Board of Education. And what the future of our kids is pretty darn important.
But it also, I think, is a training kind of for the forthcoming local elections, which is the place where we are electing our own representatives. And if we don't do that, then I think we're losing the opportunity to say what we feel like.
Well, if somebody wants to early vote, do they have to go to a specific site based on where they live?
No. The advantage and the beauty of the early voting sites is that you can go to wherever. And I'm not sure about the hours, but I want to say that they're from 8 to 8 during the early voting sites, and you can walk in any place.
It's a great advantage. I mean, I found is that it's close to work. So a lot of people
Whatever
can go
is
at
closer.
lunchtime,
Yeah.
and so you do get a lot of crossover.
Right.
Are those votes counted at the very beginning, or are they only counted like absentee votes at the end?
They will count at the very beginning.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say every day I believe that they release numbers for like how many
Yes.
people showed up
Right.
at each early
Right.
voting site, but they don't tell you who the
No.
people
Of
course,
voted
That's
for
course.
correct.
until-
That's correct.
yeah,
Right.
That is will be accumulated,
Right.
and will be disclosed at the end.
And I think it also helps the different campaigns because if somebody has voted early, they're registered for having voted early. Again, not knowing how they voted. But for the different campaigns who think they can count on them, it's a Democrat or
Correct.
Republican or third party, They
But
can
that
check
also,
them out.
it's important for the campaigns to know that because they will do the get out the vote efforts on the 8th of November, and they need to have those numbers.
Let's talk about after the registration. What and we're now in a month shy of the election. What are you doing to get people to encourage them to come out and vote? As you say, to exercise that right, exercise that responsibility.
The league is very much interested in making sure that everyone goes out. And so we are organizing 7 events, including a luncheon, all related to elections. The lunch is media and politics. We also have an event at the Maryland Preisner Community Center called Voter Education, Voter Engagement to talk about ballot questions, the voter's guide, last-minute registration efforts, learn how to use the voting machine, and in an effort to get people engaged.
It's going to be very interesting. I heard this morning a story on NPR, and we got about just a minute left, so we'll get through this quickly. NPR story talking about how the number of millennial voters is there as many now as the the older voter. I mean, it's unbelievable. And your point, and how do you address Carolina's point where these younger voters? Because I don't think it's enough to say, okay, it's your responsibility. It's they're tuned out.
I'm not an expert on the issue of how to encourage millennials, but I would say that I think the candidates and the political parties will need to address their issues. And I think that's one of the issues that is lacking at the moment. They're not relating to the political discourse that is happening in the country.
No, we got to get off of here. And I think one of the issues may be the fact that none of them study civics anymore, since we're all in the high tech. Their democracy is something that has to be relearned, and maybe the league's going to help us get to that point.
I hope so.
Yes, Carolina and these millennials, terrible.
Yeah.
Stuart, welcome back.
Thank you.
So every month we have you here, and we talk about the Beacon. But before we get into this month's Beacon, which is so exciting, can you touch real quickly upon those expos? Because those couple expos,
sure.
Were they successful?
Very nice. Yeah, we had a really good crowd at both the Silver Spring Expo, and then we did the one in Northern Virginia at Springfield Town Center. I think this was probably our best attendance ever at both of the events, more than 1,000 people to each one.
So all those people who are watching, kicking themselves, didn't go to this year's.
Missed it. Right.
Next September?
Next September, God willing, yes. Same time, same place. On a Sunday, noon to 4, we'll announce it next year.
And if they have followed what's in the October 2016 Beacon,
yes,
they'll have more money in their pockets, won't
God
they?
willing, yes. Our money section is addressed to the issues of older adults who interest rates have been so low for so long. Those people who are trying to live somewhat off their investments are finding it very, very difficult. CDs and money markets are nothing at all.
Safe investments, safest
There's
investments.
hardly any return on those. Bonds have been declining considerably. Stocks have been a roller coaster, although they have generally gone up in recent years. But a lot of people were afraid and didn't go back into the stock market once they pulled out.
I think you're going towards dividends, aren't you?
How did you know? That and preferred stocks.
Yeah.
Actually, preferred stocks we try to write about once a year or so. Not everybody really understands them. They're sort of a hybrid between bonds and stocks. They are stocks. They trade over the stock market, but they pay regular dividends and they at a fixed rate. And they also sell at a fixed price generally. I mean, they're introduced at $25, and then depending on if their dividend rate is high or low, it could be sold for 25, 26, or 27, or a little
margin of change,
right.
So stable.
And the interesting thing to keep in mind about preferred stocks is that many of them, not all, but many of them have qualified dividends, which means you pay much lower federal income tax rate. You pay like capital gains rate on them. In fact, that could be no tax at all if you're in the lowest 2 tax brackets. Also that, what else was I going to say about preferred stock? Oh yes, that they can be callable. So at a certain point, the company can say we're going to buy it back at that $25 price. So you keep that in mind when you decide how much you want to pay for it, that how many years are until they can call it, and it could give you back just the 25.
Stu, isn't that complicated? I mean, to learn all these things, do you offer advice to these senior citizens?
What we try to do, we try to explain it in as straightforward language as we can, but then we also give them 4 or 5 stocks that are paying on the order of 6 to 7% interest. strong companies that seem to be, you can't promise, past results are no indication of future results, but you can be fairly secure that these are going to be a pretty good investment if you want to live off the interest for a while.
And then you had within the non-preferred stocks, I read that article where
dividends.
50 years of dividends growing. So
This
if
is
you think
incredible.
that like year 51, year 52, it's going down the tubes, then yes, you'll be scared. But these
What-
are
what-
Warren Buffett type things.
What he's saying is that there are about 6 companies that have paid and increased their dividend every year for at least 50 years.
Wow.
And that includes companies that, 3M and Procter & Gamble and these kinds of major big companies. So they're strong companies and they have a commitment to paying their dividends regularly and to increasing it. So that's a pretty solid
Is there any
place to
kind
look.
of common theme among those? I think about 3M and Procter & Gamble, those are fairly diversified
Yes,
companies.
yes.
Is that kind of the key, that they're...
They're very strong companies and they have they're consumer oriented, I guess you might say. So maybe they have that in mind, that they want the world to know that they are committed to returning some of their profits to the public. So yes, so it makes their stocks very strong and worth
Another
investing.
interesting article I saw was Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, right.
Because, how can you go wrong with Warren Buffett?
Right, he is considered, of course, the
Yes, the guru.
legend, the
Yes.
hero of our times.
Yes.
And he has to file his, I think it's the 10K every quarter with the SEC, and it tells you what he's done, what he's bought, what he sold. So we're telling you which of the 3 dividend stocks he holds and how much of them. And General Motors is among them. It's one of his strongest stocks. It's a value stock. It's Coca-Cola. Yeah, very big stock. So again, if you're looking for something that pays a high dividend, I think they're on the order of 5-6% dividends, and has security to it, these are good ways to invest your money.
If you hate the Geico Gecko, you take that up with Warren Buffett, because that's where he made his money first and foremost, and he owns Geico. So he's responsible for that.
Is this
obnoxious
something
gecko.
that you publish in the Beacon?
Yes, this is in our money section.
Okay,
We have a
good.
number of every month we have stories on finance and law
Okay.
and these kinds of issues, and this month happens to be on these topics.
Other topics you've got. I saw the housing.
We have our housing and
travel,
home care
so much.
options pull-out section. That's a quarterly insert that we have in the Beacon, and it deals with all aspects of senior housing and home care. But this month in particular, there are several articles on the differences between different kinds of home care companies, how you select a home care provider, how you can get one online or hire one directly. There are all kinds of options there. We also have an article on assisted living. We have an article on preventing falls in the home and using a handyman, all kinds of things for anybody who either has a home or is thinking to sell a home or wants to get care in their home, whatever. So that's
15 seconds travel section going where?
I taught San Francisco.
Yeah.
You talked about that, right?
Yeah, well, I just mentioned again. I want you to hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Well, I mean, it's an expensive place to live, but it's a fun place to visit, and there's lots of good things to see there.
And it's a lot of good things coming up. A lot of good things in our second half as well. We'll be right back. And we're back. Jane DeWinter, it is always a pleasure to have you back here. Education?
Yes?
Education. Something new and different at Northwest High School. Tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty neat that they were recognized in September for a program that they've started, and it's really like a local program within their own school that's
Okay.
with the faculty. They were designated a School of Opportunity, which is an award that's only given to 20 schools a year nationwide.
Okay.
And the faculty have on their own developed as a goal this professional growth plan, or basically training on examining their own biases and inner
Wow.
kind of
Now let's get
Yeah.
Northwest is in Germantown. Germantown
Right.
is one of the most diverse parts of this community. In fact, listening to, I guess there's a report that was in the Washington Post about diversity and success coming together, and one of the communities that they looked at was Germantown, and extolling the virtues of Germantown. What was going on at Northwest? What were the teachers trying to look at? What were why go through this program?
Well, my sense of what it is because Germantown was a school. It's a school that opened about 15 years
Northwest.
ago. Northwest, yes.
Yeah.
And it was really a school that's in an area of the county that was sort of traditionally white and rural, but Germantown as a whole has been increasingly populated by Latino and African American.
African immigrants, Asian immigrants.
Yes, right.
as
And
well.
it's sort of
Yeah.
like, people used to view Silver Spring as a melting pot, but it's really just moved up 270 corridor. So Germantown was this, mixture here, and I think that there, it really brought out that okay, you've got to address how students interact, and I think.
And especially how teachers interact,
right? Teachers interact and with the students and I think that it's a really relevant thing when we're looking at what's going on in the whole country with like the Black Lives Matter and the assumptions that people make.
Right.
And I think it's pretty admirable that the faculty.
Is it likely that it will be replicated in another schools now that it's being recognized as an important
Well,
program?
I mean, I would think that would be something that hopefully would be looked at as to, what are they doing? What kinds of, sort of exercises or workshops are they doing that are really making a difference and bearing fruit?
I know my wife's a teacher, and she's actually now assistant principal of an elementary school, but she talks about the challenges with teachers who have been teaching for quite a while, where they've got their own programs, they've got their own, it's like a little fiefdom. And far be it for someone to tell them that things are moving on or that somehow they're going down patterns. Because it's I don't know, it's a real tough issue for the psyche, for just almost a slap in the face of them as a teacher, when it's not a slap in the face. It's this changing demographics within our community. And so
and some of it is not even changing demographics, because you could look at very stable communities but know that how people are raising their children today is very different from 20 years ago or older. And so if you've been a teacher in the system, I mean, you definitely have seen differences in kids' behavior, expectations, and even sort of
the nature of the family.
Right, exactly.
But even so, I would think that technology probably plays a role that is probably
as well.
The teachers are not prepared to deal with them immediately, I would think,
Yeah.
Attention spans, things like that.
Yeah, well, attention spans are definitely.
What attention spans?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it really is true that there've been a lot of, studied, recognized differences.
So who is leading the programs, and what do they involve in particular? Do you have?
Well, it's the staff within Northwest High School, the teachers, and that they're they have all the schools have built-in professional days and
Got about a
times
minute
when
left.
they.
But is
when
there
they do
a
that,
national
but so-
protocol or some program that they can adopt that's been tested?
I
or-
think it's a homegrown thing
It
where
is,
they
okay.
are really looking at. I'm sure they're using something that's a guiding thing, whether it's a facilitator or whether it's just something that they've found. But I think it's really looking at what are your what are your inherent biases that you really, everybody likes to think that they're very open-minded and that doesn't refer to them. So I think just the fact that you're willing to say, okay.
It requires honesty and humility, honestly.
Yeah.
Just to admit.
Well,
Right.
you sound positive about it.
Yeah, I think it's a very positive thing, because I think that it's one thing. I mean, we were working big learning. My organization was working with the population, and one of the adults worked at the school, said something to the kid, and the kid goes, "Well, you're just saying that because you vote for Trump." Well, okay, it had nothing to do with it. But kids also impart these biases.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you, Jane. That's a perfect segue, because Carolina's here talking about World of Montgomery.
That's right.
Which is really, I mean, I love the World of Montgomery. I was there for the first one, and have been there to several since. Tell us a little bit about World of Montgomery, what Montgomery College is doing, and all those good things.
Sure. The most important thing to know is that this is a free event. It's a festival where the entire community is welcome. So this is, kids, you can bring grandparents, really anybody that wants to enjoy and see and taste and experience the worlds and the cultures that are represented in our county, which are, widely diverse.
So while we talk about that, there's a website maybe people can go to it while you're speaking. Not that they want to take away from your speaking, but
sure. So yeah, they can go to worldofmontgomery.com. They'll see that it's October 16th, so that's a Sunday, here at the Rockville campus, right at the parking lot, so plenty of free parking. But I think I'm really excited about just this year's theme is really home and welcoming people home. And so you'll be able to literally walk into country tents, let's say Indonesia or Ethiopia or China, India, and just different tents where you'll experience what's it like to be welcomed into the home of somebody from that country. And so we're excited about that. I know the Kid Museum is collaborating with Montgomery College and just different partners like Fun for Montgomery, the Office of Community Partnerships, and we're all kind of coming together. We're creating a communal project to sort of see where people are coming from in the county. What do they consider a peaceful place? What do they consider a safe place in the county? We're going to see all of this come together in the span of 4 hours.
Wow.
Wow, 4 hours.
Yeah,
12 to 4.
noon to 4. That's right.
So you mentioned the Kid Museum. I think that's new to me. That's at Davis Library?
It's right there, and it's a great space for. It's not the kind of museum where you just walk in and observe things on a wall. No, it's a place where your kids can go and literally interact with activities and projects, and it's all for them. So.
Now you've got for coming out, Carla Silvestre has been key to the whole development of this. So tell us a little bit about Carla and what her impact in the community is.
Well, Carla, heading up the community engagement, this festival is all about engaging our community. It's about letting the community know, MC is all over the county. Come into our backyard. Come see what we have. Obviously, we're also celebrating 70 years for Montgomery College. So that's a huge anniversary for us that we hope to kind of bring out and just let people enjoy.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, where are so that, you're going to have tents with different, representing different countries. Who's staffing these? Where and how did people sign up to be part of this?
I think for next year there will be opportunity to sign up if, let's say, you've got a group of Costa Ricans or maybe Japanese, whoever wants to participate and play a part of the festival. Through the website, that's an opportunity. But for this year, there's kind of already a number of volunteers. Obviously, the Sister Cities program is a big contribution from the county to us. So lots of volunteers.
How many do you know? I don't know if you have any numbers in terms of the number of tents that you have. How many countries are participating?
It's a lot of tents. We're somewhere in about 10 countries, and I know that there's going to be a lot of also like volunteer organizations that are going to be looking to engage people there because the county's volunteer week is kicking off there as well.
Because I know in the past, community health care, for instance, and being able to get a well-body checkup of some sort. So much of where the resources are in the county. I mean, it's an addition to celebrating the county. It also is a great way for people to understand how to navigate through the county.
Exactly, and talk about navigating through the county. The Ride-On is offering free shuttles for people to get there from Silver Spring, from Wheaton. So we really encourage everybody to go online and check out everything we have.
Yeah, and I think it's important also, World of Montgomery, I look over at Stuart, not because Stuart is older himself, but the Beacon readership is the seniors. I mean, it's young, it's old, it's this mosaic of Montgomery County. It's, and there's a lot of things to celebrate about what we've done right, even though on this show we often focus on those things that we need to do a little better. But at least once a year we need to celebrate how far we've come.
I think it's a part of building the narrative that matters to us in Montgomery County that might sound a little different from what we hear in the national debates, but it really is a narrative of inclusivity and celebrating cultures that are here, people that are here, your neighbors, just coming and learning.
Carolina, I read that you're having a Parade of Nations. Say a word about that.
Ooh, well, that'll be exciting. So
10 seconds.
1:30, I know, is a big parade, so lots of activities and noise and definitely food too.
So and I probably anybody can be in the parade because we're all
just come on out.
Do we need to dress up?
Thank you. It's the last word. Thank you so much. Thank all of you for this show. It's been great, and thank all of you in the viewing audience for being with us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers. Please join us next week at this very same time.